Welcome to Bizworld, I'm Nurin Razmyn. The country's economy expanded 4.2% in the first quarter this year, from 2.9% in the fourth quarter of 2023. Department of Statistics Malaysia, DOSM Chief Statistician Datuk Seri Muhammad Uzair Mahidin said the growth was driven by stronger private expenditure and positive turnaround in exports.
This was supported by higher household spending, export turnaround and higher tourist arrivals, improving labour market conditions and stronger investment activities.
Household expenditure, which contributed 61.9% to GDP, grew 4.7%. It was reported that festive seasons and the beginning of school sessions are factors that contributed to the increase in household spending. The services sector steered the overall performance with 59.3% share in the country's first quarter performance, as well as manufacturing sector, which expanded after recording a decline in the previous quarter. Meanwhile, headline inflation remained moderate at 1.7% during the quarter. Meanwhile, Bank Negara predicts headline inflation to remain moderate between 2.2 and 3.5% this year, broadly reflecting stabilizing demand and contained cost pressures. Its governor, Dato' Abdul Rashid Kafur, said the inflation outlook could rise from the implementation of the fuel subsidy rationalization.
The outlook remains dependent on the implementation of domestic policy on subsidies and price controls, global commodity prices, and financial market developments.
He added Malaysia's economic growth is set to be driven by resilient domestic spending, a recovery in external demand, continued employment and wage growth. Meanwhile, investment activities will benefit from both public and private sector projects. The central bank is also optimistic about growth in the tech sector, robust tourism and faster implementation of investment projects. This despite the risk from weaker global demand, geopolitical tensions and potential declines in commodity production. The ringgit may strengthen steadily over the coming months, supported by domestic indicators such as stable interest rates, easing inflation and commendable economic growth. According to economist Jeffrey Williams, intervention from Bank Negara played a crucial role in ensuring market stability and liquidity. As such, he expects the ringgit to gradually strengthen with a fair value of 4.20 to 4.30 against the US dollar. Meanwhile, Bank Muamalat Chief Economist Muhammad Afzanizan Abdul Rashid said the market participants had been concerned over the Fed's hawkish stance as the US inflation remained stubbornly high despite successive rate hikes since 2022. The assurance that another rate hike is not an option and the continued disinflationary trends have contributed to the weakening of the greenback. For now, he is looking at the ringgit ending the year at 4.65 versus the US dollar. Bursa Malaysia ended higher today, supported by strong buying interest, mainly in commodity-related telco and gaming stocks. At 5 p.m., the FBM KLCI increased by 5.51 points to 1,616.62 points. Market breadth was positive, with 846 gainers against 374 losers, while 497 counters traded unchanged. According to Rakuten Trade, the benchmark index sustains its upward trend, driven by continuous foreign buying support. The increased emolument spending from civil servants' salary hike could be funded by boosting revenue collection, savings from operating expenditure rationalization, as well as higher government borrowings. According to RHB research, given that a significant portion of operating expenditure is dedicated to emoluments, rationalization of subsidy and implementation of new tax measures are necessary. This is intended to offset the increased operational costs and manage the national debt. Assuming the allocation for emoluments is increased by 10 billion ringgit in 2025, the research house said the total allocation for that year is projected to be at least 105.6 billion ringgit, compared to 95.6 billion ringgit this year. However, it stated that there is a potential shortfall of about 4 billion ringgit after accounting for potential revenue sources and savings from fuel subsidy rationalisation. And that's all the time we have for Bizworld. I'm Nurin Razmyn. Keep tuning into TV3.